welcome back to another episode of Disrupting Divorce Conversations for Women. And you get to see behind the scenes of two women having a conversation about parenting plans. So, if you haven't had a chance to check out Tracy Malone, many of you maybe have been following her, listening to her, participated in her programs. She has an excellent reputation within the divorce space, and just really excited to be able to have a conversation with you today. So, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, we are going to be talking about something in a little bit of a different angle and a little bit greater depth that I think we've talked about in previous podcasts. And you've been a guest before. As I was kind of looking through some stuff, I'm like, you know what? I think we need to continue this conversation. And so, one of the things that I really love about you is that when you're doing something, you just go all in. Like the amount of education and resource and reading and research, I mean, it just blows me away.
Pulls me away, but it makes me tired. But I don't want to put something out that I didn't research every possible,
Yes.
scenario and think of everyone in all states.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I think people, as they kind of explore this, will see what I mean by that. But we want to focus today on what financial protection should people add to their parenting plans. So let's kick off. And I know we've got a subset of that, but let's just talk big picture and then we'll dive into some of the details.
Well, because I coach people through divorce or co-parenting, or I get them when they're co-parenting and going, oh God, this isn't working. I started to ask my clients for their parenting plans. I'm like, can you show me what you have? Let's see what you need, right? And I was like, oh my God, you have no protection. No wonder this is happening, right? I've even seen where things that don't belong in a clause being inserted so that maybe you'll miss it. But I'm like, that has nothing to do with what they're talking about. That is a hidden thing that you've just signed, and it's probably part of this one. And you've just signed away something that was really important. So, they have their standard templates and they don't like to deviate from them. What I find is that lack of protection is built because lawyers don't know what happens in co-parenting. They just go, well, if they don't do what they're said, don't worry, we can take them back to court. Cha-ching. I want to keep people out of court. Do it right the first time. Then maybe we'll keep them out of court and give them a calmer co-parenting plan and a place where they can all have calm. Because if you don't talk about it, you're going to fight about it. If not then, you're going to fight about it later when something doesn't get covered. You didn't think of that before, and now it's all happening. But the error I see in lawyers is the parenting plans are like, it's all about the money. That's the divorce decree, but the money and the child time and the schedule, that's their focus. They're more worried about Halloween than how you're going to get money back or things are going to come to you. And so, the financial aspects of this, we have to look at it more as a financial tool for protection than, Tuesdays and Saturdays. Those things are important. But if you're not putting the meat of this in it, you will be in trouble later. And if you don't now, you're going to pay later because the lawyer, I read a parenting plan last week, 4 times it said, if this doesn't happen, we'll just go back to court. Why? Why don't you just have something that protects people? And I just don't want them to go back. So we have to start to look at exactly the things that they're encountering. And then what's the clause that would stop this from happening?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? A lot of times what happens, right, is if it's like, oh, yeah, we'll just take them back later. They're like, I don't have the time, the money, the energy to take them back. So then they just end up writing it off or leaving money on the table. Okay, so kind of with that framework, let's dive into the first question. So how does someone financially protect themselves in a parenting plan? What are some of the things that they could do?
First thing is outlining. Now, remember, I work with high conflict divorces. So if people are listening to this and they are not in a terror situation as my clients are, this might not be as important. But why not? It's a line. You're already paying them. It's what does child support cover? Because so many times my clients are like, well, they said just take the camp and the activities out of child support. And then they're narcissistic. In my case, X says, well, that's what it's for. No, define it. It's for clothing, food, and shelter. Boom. And part of your transportation for kids. That's it. So that means, okay, camp activities are separate. Of course, hopefully you'll have an activities section that would do it. but outline what it covers and what it doesn't. That meaning no camp, no activities, no college, no whatever is going to go into the bucket so that there's no arguments over who's paying for the class gift for the teacher at the end of the year or the 400 paper towels you have to buy and supply the classroom with, right? Those add up. And if it doesn't say, we'll split everything else other than these things or these are included, then there's no more arguments, right?
Yeah.
So think about that, but then start at the top of the game. And this is a mistake people make all the time. Their kid's 4. We work out the time, we work out this, we'll
Yep.
figure out the rest later. No, think of the big things like a computer, like phones, like a car when they're 16, right? Whenever someone puts in the phones, for example, if you think about that, whose plan is it going to be on? Should be outlined in the parenting plan. Whose plan is it going to be on? I insist that my clients get insurance on the phones because kids break them. And so many times, the person that was supposed to be responsible or you split the phone charge, well, I already pay and it doesn't say I have to pay twice. Okay, so that means the other parent is going to have to pick it up to replace the phone. So for $5 a month, get phone insurance, protect yourself, right? And then when you get into those big things like a car, what's it going to look like? Who's going to pay for driver's ed? Who's going to pay for insurance? Whose insurance will it be on? Who's going to pay for gas? How will the kid do this? Think about those things. Even if your kid is 4, then you don't have to ever go back to court and haggle over this stuff, right? Same thing on a computer. Who's going to pay for the software? School has requirement usually of a Microsoft Office kind of a thing. Who's going to pay for that? If it's a phone, you should be looking at things like who will have access to it. Will you both have access to it? If it's on your plan, or if, let's say it's on their plan, they can easily say, don't give your mom the password. Don't give your dad the password. This is our phone. They don't have any control. So just by nailing some of those tiny details down, 2 less bites right there. And
Yeah.
they're expensive bites, right?
Well, and I think too, the other piece with that is, okay, setting the framework where, goodness gracious, if there are things that you're like, oh, well, I didn't think about that. How are those decisions going to be made? And what's the threshold? So, like the car example is a great one. Like, oh, I had a client whose spouse went and bought their 16-year-old a vehicle and was like, "Oh, you owe me half of 16,000." Like,
Mhm.
what? So you
Yes.
can build in, right, those, hey, anything over X amount, whatever that down amount is, whether it's $200, $500, doesn't matter. But it's, hey, listen, if one party's going to be purchasing something above this threshold, it's not to say they can't buy it. But if they're expecting the other party to pay, there needs to be an agreement in writing ahead of time that they're agreeing to make that payment.
Absolutely. Again, this is the surprise stuff
Yes.
that people get hit with, whether it's, oh, I just bought the kids an Xbox, you owe me half, or oh, they did this, right? I mean, all these big things. So there's something I have in this parenting plan course, which is setting up that budget of anything over 50, 100, whatever your family wants to do. If they make that unilateral decision to go buy a $16,000 car without written say, I'll be happy to share this with you, then you do not have responsibility for it.
Yeah,
So
that's
those are the kind of
huge.
things you have to understand. Those are tiny one-line things
Yeah.
can change
Yeah.
your.
Yeah, it's a boundary, and I think it's super important, and the more clear that you can be. The other thing, and I don't know if you include this in your stuff, but one of the other things that I'm often looking at when I'm putting my eyeballs on the marital settlement agreement around these expenses as well is, okay, if they don't pay or
Mhm.
square up on their half, then what? So I know for me, one of the things we've suggested is putting in interest. If this isn't paid, we're going to accrue interest. But what are some of the things that you would recommend as far as we gotta have consequences?
Consequences are the key because if you don't, they're going to keep doing it, right? So the biggest consequence, which is actually in my divorce book as well, it's a non-compliance clause. And I have a clause in there that I call what if they don't? What if they don't pay me? What if they don't split that? What if they don't do what they were supposed to do? And you have to take them back to court because as a narcissist abuse coach, I've had people go back to court for 10 years, back and back and back, right? So if they are not doing it, whatever it says in the document, this non-compliance clause says it ties into the attorney part. Both parties are responsible for their legal fees, but in the event that either party didn't do what they were supposed to in here, they're responsible for the legal fees of the other party if Sid has to take them back to court. Hello? Go ahead, mess up. You're going to pay. Guess what? They don't
Yeah.
like to pay for two lawyers. So that in itself is the best protection that anyone can add to a thing. And I see it in about 1% of the parenting, especially with high conflict people like my clients, where they're just like having a fight over who's getting the toothbrush. I mean, it is so granular. And yet the lawyers are like, don't worry about it. And no, you're going to have conflict afterwards.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, right, because once that marital settlement agreement is done, they don't hear all of the issues like you and I do right after the fact, because the only time they ever hear about it is if somebody reaches out to them because they want to take them back to court.
Mhm.
So there's just a lot.
They don't understand the consequences of a bad parenting plan because
Yeah,
generally, if they wrote a bad parenting plan, they're going to someone else to fix it.
yeah, yeah, no, for
You
sure,
need
for
to know
sure.
that you're sucked.
Exactly. So what kinds of other financial related things should people consider?
Well, I think professional costs, splitting that. And that means not only therapy, which is important, but braces. Your kid needs some kind of medical help or anything that's bigger. We're going to split the professional fees. That includes if we have to go to a parent coordinator or, a mediator or anybody, they're already pre saying this is what it's going to be so that you don't have to then fight the battle with the mediator to go, "Oh, I didn't want this mediation, I'm not paying." We'll split all those things, like the doctors, all of the things, and again, normally that's in there, 70-30, 50-50, whatever it is, but just say all of these people, all of the
Yeah,
professionals, because we don't even know who they'll be. You don't know if you're
right,
gonna break a leg and need a special
right, right.
you don't know what's gonna happen, so having an overall thing like that is helpful, but I also love when people put life insurance in.
Yes.
So if they are supposed to be getting alimony or
Yep.
child support, asking for a life insurance policy to be taken out until till the
Yes.
commitment of debt is paid is such a brilliant idea
Yeah.
because again, you don't know what'll happen. And if you are relying on that income
Yeah.
and job or they get fired or they die, you have some
Yeah.
kind of from that. So
Yeah, absolutely. And that's certainly something, I mean, I'm totally in alignment with that. I agree. And it's interesting because you were talking about splitting the variable expenses, defining what they are, determining what the split's going to be, whether it's 50-50, 70-30, 60-40. I think the important thing to remember is it doesn't always have to be 50-50. There could be a deviation from that. So when people get into the negotiations and let's say you say, hey, listen, in exchange for maybe here's the top amount for child support. I'm willing to go a little bit less than that with the understanding that they're going to be responsible for 60-40 or 70-30. And again, we got to run the math and make sure that it makes sense. But I think it's also coming up with a system on how to track all of these expenses. There are some apps. I have one that I personally like. It's called Decomply, and it focuses only on the financial aspect. If people need the parenting piece or they need that aspect of it, then our family wizard may be a good fit. And then you add on. But if they only need the financial stuff, like it's great because they can upload the receipts. The reports actually keep track of all the variable expenses. They identify where the discrepancy is. And then you can pay within the app. And cha-ching, you can see that that's paid. So you're building from the very beginning those reports so that if you do end up having to go back, you're not trying to do a 5-year audit of all the things that were spent. I mean, it's going to be a disaster. So high conflict in particular, you got to just do it from the very beginning
yes, but with
of,
that, you
you know,
also need a clause that says, A, we're gonna use this app, so there's no
yes, that's
B,
right.
we're gonna use it, and not only are we gonna talk about, like, how long before you have to pay back, which again, 89% of the times they don't even say, "Do I have a week? Do I have 3 days? Do I have a month?" If you have a month and it's your budget that's gonna be out $600 and you're trying to get money reimbursed from a doctor thing or something, $600 could make a huge difference in you. So do you want it a month later? Do you want it 24 hours later? Right? You have to know not only if it is an app, we'll be paying within the app. If it's not, will it be Zelle? Will it be a check? Do you wanna see them in your face? Do they really ever send checks? All of these little decisions, write it down. This is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to do it so that there is no conflict later. Just go
Yeah.
back to the parenting plan. It's all in there. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
I'm expecting my money. But also, again, now what if they don't? They don't pay within 12 days, 10 days, whatever it's supposed to be. Now we defer. Not that you would necessarily go back to court because they didn't pay for one payment, but you're starting to build patterns. You're starting to show and gain that evidence so that you can say, look, here's the 15 times they were in violation. We need better protection, please.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Well, and I think that's an important part too. Like the other piece is, okay, how much interaction and how frequent of interaction do you want with the party? Because like there are times when the default, in my opinion, tends to be usually like at once a month they're going to square up. And there are times where I'm like, do you really want to do that every single month? Or would you prefer to do it once a quarter? Or to your point, is there a threshold where you say, hey, any of the expenses that are over that are really going to impact my budget?
Mhm.
We want a 10-day turnaround or whatever, because you have to look at your budget and know the bandwidth in which you can expect.
Mhm. Absolutely. All of the people that I have in my room, if you would call it, are people who are not getting paid, and they just surrender. They fight, 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 and then they just don't have the money to go back to court, and then they just go, "Okay, fine, I'll pay for braces." I can't even tell you how many people, 10 and $15,000 for braces because the other partner didn't say they had to pay, right? And therefore, that's a huge problem,
Yeah,
but if we don't lay it out,
that's
that's
right.
what the loophole is.
That's
So
right.
we have a loophole.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I could not agree more. So, moving on, right? I know we've covered a lot of ground in those questions, giving people a lot of things to think about. I know in your course, you map all of that out. In your book, you had something called What If They Don't Clause. I know we talked a little bit about that. But also, what kinds of mistakes do you see when people are putting together that parenting plan that you also want to really highlight?
Again, if you are looking at the challenges that you're having now, it's either when you were married, in the nasty divorce, in the whole process, they're not good about paying you money, or they don't do this, right? They don't reimburse you on time. Well, then we must add the expense reimbursement. We beef up whatever it is. If they refuse to pay for things like the teacher gift or the classroom supplies, we make something that gives us a final decision making kind of idea. So, a conflict resolution policy for these disputes. And what that usually is, I like a four-parter. You start off going, we'll both try to get along. And then we go, next level is we'll go to a parent coordinator. And if not that, then we'll go to a mediation. And then if not, again, a lot of people will skip that extra. And the final decision goes to the mediator or the parent coordinator or the arbitrator. They have the right before we go to court. So you have all of these ways to protect yourself from them not paying. And also people make the mistake that goes, oh, we'll see a parent coordinator if this doesn't get along. Pick one, name them. Do you want to spend 6 months fighting over? I don't like that one. I don't like them. I don't have time to look at them. I'm not doing it. Oh, meanwhile, you're not getting your money. Pick one and identify them with their phone number and their information right in the plan. Okay, if they aren't there, that's another story later, 10 years from now. But for now, name them and get it in there so you don't have somebody going, I don't like them. I don't like them. I'm not doing it. No, no, no. And you're stuck. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's interesting because you know what I was thinking of is it's like beneficiaries, right? You name your main primary beneficiary and then maybe a contingent just as a backup, but you name them.
Yeah,
You
you
name
name
them.
them. If you do not name them, that's where complications happen. Because I've had people fight for a year over who's going to sell the house. I mean, that's the kind of drama that, again, everything's, I don't like them. I don't like them. Every single realtor in the entire town had come through. No, no, nope. It was just a delay tactic. And that's the same thing that's going to happen, when you start to have conflicts in things. So if you just go, this is the plan. We don't agree. We're calling Tracy. I'm not a parent coordinator. We're just going to pretend. But just go, I'll call her. We'll take care of it. And because we already had the thing about splitting costs, we're going to split the cost of the parent coordinator.
Absolutely. I agree. And, I think these are all really important things for people to be thinking about, to be considering. You and I are on the same page. The details matter, right? Bottom line is the details matter. It costs you more time, money, and energy when you don't have the clarity about what's going to happen. And I love the whole concept of if they don't clause. Yeah, it's just super valuable, helpful, great thing for people to be thinking.
Yeah.
In addition to that, let's talk about the parenting plan master course that you created. Talk to us about that. I know it's just absolutely an incredible way for people to make sure that they've got what they need in that parenting plan, but talk to us a little bit about what's included there.
So it took me about 3 years of research, like you said in the beginning, to not only review my clients, but review what are the laws in every state. So it broken down into 52 lessons. Now, if you don't have a special needs child, you don't need that lesson. If you're not in the military, you don't need that. A lot of them are specific to different areas. So at least, say, 40 lessons might apply to you. Little things like looking at what does legal custody mean? What does it actually mean? Laying out that stuff. I've got sample clauses. I've got a video with each lesson. And you're going to get an education that goes, I want to ask for this. There's worksheets. Some of them are like 10 pages long. These are all the things you could ask for. What do you want to do in this case? What do you want there? Once I saw all the choices, I'm like, oh my God, we need like a 31 wonderful flavors sign. This is all the things you can get. What would you like? Because that to me was something that was missing. I don't
Yeah.
even know what to ask for. And when I see people's plans, they're like, I didn't know what to ask for. This is what to ask for, how to demand it, how to fight for it, and even how to build the evidence to negotiate. Say, this is like heels down. I'm not gonna not have this one. I'll fight
Yeah.
for, soul, because this is gonna protect you financially. Everything about a parenting plan isn't just time. That's the easy part. Holidays here, blah, blah, blah. It's
Yeah.
money and
Yeah.
it is future. So if you don't lay out these things, it is going to complicate your whole entire post-divorce thing. And that's what post-divorce abuse is about.
Yeah, no, I think this is so fantastic. What would you say to the people that are like, okay, I've been asking for some of these things that you're talking about, Tracy, and I'm getting pushback? Like, tee up what they could say or how they could approach it to advocate for some of the things that we're talking about.
Yeah. Again, lawyers are happy to take your money all the way along. But when it comes to the parenting plan, they're like, don't worry about that. If they don't do it, we'll go back to court. Again, to their benefit if you have to go back to court. So when you are fighting for all of this, it's negotiating. It is like, I really am not going to give up on this, but I'll let you have that or I'll do this, right? When the lawyer is not willing to do these things, something that everyone needs to understand is you're the boss. You're paying them. And even if they go, well, I don't think that it's necessary that we do that. I don't care what you think. I want this. And you're going to fight for it because my ex is not going to like it. But we have evidence to show they don't pay bills, and this is what kind of protection I need. Write it. People have to get stronger. They get more strong and confident by knowing their rights. Do you know that every single state except for Rhode Island has a parenting plan, rules, guidelines, your rights? And people don't know that. I had a lady here in Colorado who her husband had been in jail for DV. He was so scared he was going to get 50%. So we went to
Oh,
the guidelines, and the state guidelines said if he had been in jail for DV, he has to have supervised visits for a certain period of time. Her lawyer never told her that. I've gathered all of these and I'm like, go look, know what your rights are. Because if you don't know what, you're going to be coerced by the lawyer to go, oh, it's fine. Don't worry. Everybody does it this way. You know your situation. You know the things that you are experiencing. Fight for them and demand them. Then your lawyer might have to fight with your ex.
yes, exactly. And I love that because I think at the end of the day, right, when you can come to the table, give some guidance and direction, be very firm, right? They'll do it.
Do you walk into a steakhouse and go, could you cut it this way? Could you do it this? You go in and go, I want it medium rare. I want the outside real crispy. Do that with your lawyer. I want this and have them write it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love this. Well, I want to thank you for your time today. As we wrap up our time, final thoughts, comments, send off, encouragement, leave us with something.
Well, I think people have to realize that they have a lot more power than they know. and your children, your situation, your financial life is on the paper. You must protect yourself, because if you get wishy-washy, and parenting plans always end up at the end, and when they're at the end, you're tired of fighting. They didn't give you this, they didn't do that. Put parenting plans first. Start to talk about the kids before the money, and you'll see a different result.
I love that. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time. We're going to include all your info, the link to the course, all the things in the show notes. Thanks for doing this special episode for us. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, and I think I even gave you some coupon codes you could
You
offer.
did. Yes, we will do those for sure. All right. Well, thank you for all the work you're doing. Really appreciate you. And thanks for sharing your expertise with our audience today.